Well, welcome to a new vlog, a new project, a new idea. I really like watching reading vlogs, so I'm doing my own now. I've done a lot of shorts in the last few months, but I'm back to normal videos now. And as you can see in the title, I have a project going on called something like Read It All. I don't know yet what I'm going to decide on, but something like that, where my goal is to read books by the same author, to catch up on them, to read the latest releases, or to finish series, or to read, I don't know, my book subscription books. That's also an idea. I could do like videos where I read all my Fairy Loot books that I get, or I could do reading all the Stephen King books, catching up on those, or read all the Star Wars books, or I don't know, whatever. Reading all Rick Riordan and Cassandra Clare and so on. There's a lot of ideas that I have and that I can do, but for now we will focus on Brandon Sanderson. Just because I started reading his books like 1 or 2 months ago, where I really wanted to push myself and to get through all his books, especially in the Cosmere, but everything else as well, like the Alcatraz books in the back right there. I've read all of those now. I'm almost done with the Mistborn stuff that is out, the Secret Projects, and Stormlight Archive I've started. So these books that you can see right here are all the books that I have read. And these are all the books that I have not read and that I already own. So don't mind the freaking mess in my room with all these stacks on the floor. So yeah, all of these books I need to read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, something like that, I don't know. And I will focus on doing that. I also need to purchase some more so that I really have all of the books and can call this project done. But yeah, for now I'll focus on what I have. And for this video my goal is to read everything from Bands of Mourning up onto Oathbringer, which is kind of ambitious, but whatever. I don't have any time limit for it, and if the video is 1 hour long, it's 1 hour long. So I will have to finish Mistborn Era 2 with Bands of Mourning right here. Then I'll have to finish Arcanum Unbounded, which I have read some stories, also some in the back. I only have 2 missing that I can only read after finishing this one. Then Rithmatist is a standalone or beginning of a series, I don't know, that I can read whenever. And then I have all these books, which is a whole series I've never started. And then Oathbringer, the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archive. And then for these, there's going to be another vlog. I think I have to read something before I can go to these books, because I'm reading in publication order so that I don't ever have problems with spoilers or not understanding anything, which is why I start a bunch of series, like I've started Mistborn and Stormlight Archive at the same time, but who cares, they are very different from each other, so I can probably continue doing that with like Skyward and Steelheart and whatever else is coming out. I hope I'm going to be fast enough so that I don't have like 10 more books that he's published by the time I finished those. So yeah, I'll try to do this in like 1 month, doing all of these. Maybe even a little less. Like I need 1 week for a Stormlight book. For the other 2 at least, I read them in 1 week each, not both of them. That would be crazy, and then these ones will be a little bit faster, but yeah. I'll probably read something in between that you won't notice because it won't be part of the vlog. But for now, this is enough of an introduction. Let's just start with book number 1, 3rd book in Mistborn Era 2. I will try not to spoil anything, just to give my general opinion, just because it's a lot of books and the goal is just to inspire maybe others to finally tackle some authors and series that they want to finish. So let's start this damn thing. Okay, wait, that's fun. It says right here this book comes out in the year that will mark the 10th anniversary of the Mistborn series. And this book came out 2016. Well, as you know, right now it's 2026, marking this the 20th anniversary, where I read it and do the vlog, which is, I don't know, just a fun little thing I noticed. Still in the acknowledgements, in this last paragraph he says, Mistborn is not quite halfway through the evolution I've planned for it. I can't wait for you to see what's coming your way, and this book is where some of it finally starts to be revealed. Like, what? This is crazy. There hasn't been a new era of Mistborn, just one more book after this one, as far as I'm aware of, which is called The Lost Metal, and I think it's like the 4th book in the series, being published years later, in between other books. And, like, how much is planned there? What else is there coming? Is Mistborn going to be like a 20-book series in the end, or what? I'm so confused. I think this series was originally not even the planned 2nd series. I think he mentioned something like that in book 2. And I don't know. It's crazy. Brandon Sanderson books are just crazy. It's one whole connecting universe thingy, and I love it, but it's also overwhelming in a way. But yeah, now I can finally really start the actual book. Just as a short disclaimer, I didn't really enjoy the first book in this series. Wait, let's find the overview. I liked Final Empire, Well of Ascension, and Hero of Ages. That was a fine series. I like Stormlight Archive much more. This is one of the best things he's written so far, and I also like Alcatraz. Very, very fun middle grade books. Haven't read those. Love Elantris, one of my favorites as well. I also really like Warbreaker. Haven't read these, and I don't think I'm going to read Snapshot because it doesn't sound interesting at all to me. Still have to read that. And yeah, I'm in the middle of that one. I haven't read this. It doesn't seem interesting as well. So yeah. Alloy of Law has been my least favorite Brandon Sanderson book. Shadows of Self, however, was really fun. And now I hope Bands of Mourning will be just as great as the 2nd one, if not even better. And then this is one of the short stories I'll have to read after the waltz. I just didn't enjoy it because I don't like Western action stuff with gunfights and seeming like a cool dude book. So there was a lot of that in there. And also mystery and crime is often not what I like to read about. But yeah, the 2nd book was much better, didn't have too many of those elements. And I don't know, I just liked how complex it was and that it connected to the first trilogy much more. Didn't feel like a standalone. So yeah, let's finally get in there. So I finished the prologue, which is like almost 40 pages long. Interesting length of a freaking prologue, but it was really interesting because most of it is about the childhood of what's his name? Vexillium Ladrian, who's the main character of the whole series. And he's like, I don't know, very grown adult, like middle-aged man in the series. So finding out about his childhood was pretty interesting. And then at the end of it, we skip back to now. And it seems like part 1, where I'm at, we'll start with a wedding. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, that's my whole update. I'm going to update you once I'm done with part 1, which is not going to be too long, and the next update when I'm done with part 2 and then part 3. Yes indeed. And I'm done with part 1. nothing much to report on. They just found out about the big quest for this book, and there was some character development, some important talks between some characters, and I don't know, some shenanigans going on, but nothing major that I have any strong opinions on, so I'm just going to continue on. And now in part 2 we also finally have, wait for it, these news clippings again. I love these. They put so much more lore into the world, making it feel so authentic and cool. So yeah, these are just like teeny tiny reports and advertisements and stuff from the world, and I just love reading those. So we have 4 of these in the whole book. Most of them will be in part 2, so that's what I'm most excited about for now. And I think that's about where I'm going to stop for today, which is alright for the first day, but not ideal. I wanted to finish it tomorrow, but we'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just have a weird long reading day. I'll never know. But yeah, that's for day 1, 130 pages. It's the next day and it's already dark again, but I finished part 2 and I'm now at part 3, which is page 249, if you count all of these. So I have some thoughts, and as you can see, I'm also reading The Great Gatsby in a German version with illustrations by Lecomte, and I'm mentioning this because there's some similarities, I think, in some parts of part 2 that I just want to briefly mention, just because I'm reading both of these books and noticed this. But starting at the beginning of part 2, we have the characters traveling to the new town that is featured in this book, which is the city of New Seren, where they will be investigating and interrogating their new case surrounding Wex's uncle and sister. But at the beginning, when they have to travel there, they have a long fight scene on a train. Like, I'm talking multiple chapters long, and it dragged a little just because I don't like these fight scenes in here. Similar to the other Mistborn series, I didn't really like the fights in there. The magic system is cool, but the action was just a little bit long-winded sometimes, for me personally. What I did like was that the women were more involved in combat now, compared to the other books. They fought with the boys together, so that was nice to see. And then I also think that Steris takes up much more space in this 3rd book, and I really like her now. She doesn't seem as one-sided, and she is really involved, and she also contributes to the plot a lot. So yeah, she seems much more likable. In part 2, they also arrive at this new city, finally, after the long fight, and they investigate and do their stuff, which sometimes was interesting when you learn something more about the magic, but sometimes it was just about the humor and, again, fights, which wasn't as interesting to me, personally. There was also one scene where Hoyt shows up. Always love to see him, although I'm really waiting on a book just about him. I think it was planned. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I think we really need it. I mean, he shows up in a lot of books by Brandon Sanderson, but we really don't know much about him and why he is traveling all of these different worlds. But yeah, there was a very significant coin scene in here. wasn't just him showing up and being funny, but there was also something that is important to the plot that happened with him. And then after that, the party happens, which is why I mentioned Great Gatsby, because Wax attends a party, and I think his observations and the overall feel of the party and the people in it, their behavior and what they say and the conversations and all the stuff, it was really similar to Great Gatsby, I think, in the tone. I mean, the world is completely different, and the plot, obviously, there's no fantasy in here. I don't really think even there's a plot in here. I don't know. I've only read like a third, maybe, of the book, and nothing really happens. The characters are all just bonkers. I don't know. Not really a fan of this one so far, but that's another story. So, Wax even mentions, I haven't written down the page, so I can't look here, but he mentions that after all this time, the people that go on parties and talk about superficial stuff, they look different now. There's some new fashion going on, obviously, but he says they are still the same, and that's just a theme I think that is also very prevalent in The Great Gatsby, in my opinion, so far, what I've read. So yeah, that's basically everything that happened in part 2. At the end of it, there was a kissing scene. Didn't really see that coming, but it was nice to see. I'm not going to say who kissed whom, but yeah, kind of exciting. And I hope to finish it now. I'm not sure if this is going to wrap up most of what is going on with Wax, because there is a 4th book, but I don't know when this 4th book takes place and if it's still written from Wax's perspective. I don't know. And I won't find out until I actually start it. So, yeah. Let's see if this wraps up the trilogy or leaves on a little bit of a cliffhanger or with open questions. There's not really a cliffhanger in Brandon Sanderson's books. Okay, I'm going to shut up now and we'll see you when I finish the book. And this is where I'm going to stop for day number 2. Yeah, surprise, surprise, I did not finish the book. But I did read more than yesterday, and I'm on page, 340. So just 100 pages more till I'm finished. But I'm not going to do this today. It's already midnight, and my brain is overwhelmed with all the words that it had to read. And I'm finished. Bookmark is gone, which means I'm finished with all the pages in it on day 3. And I have some thoughts definitely for part 3, so let's get into those. And yeah, I'm just building a little book nook with tiny pieces. Like, look at this. This is my finger. These are the pieces. It's tiny. And yeah, that's just to have a backdrop for you. That is not just the book. Something different while I'll talk about my thoughts. So part 3 has a lot of action, a lot of just fighting, but also a lot of interesting reveals about the world and the magic. So I think there was a little bit too much fighting, because they were missing some descriptions about the places that they were visiting, or just the setting and the world in general. Or maybe I just didn't notice them, but I don't think they were in there. For example, it took a whole airship ride for me to notice again that, yeah, sure, there are skyscrapers in this world, of course. I knew that. Pff, yeah. I definitely didn't need the airship ride. No. And yeah, just stuff like that. They were also in a temple for a time, and I don't think it was really described how it looked like. Like, when they were going in there were sentences like, "Oh, we saw more traps, so we set them off, and then we moved on." Like, what the hell? Just describe what they're doing. it's such a cool setting, a temple. I didn't expect that when I picked up this book. It's always just cities or like desert, like empty places. A temple would have been so cool, but I think it wasn't really important that it was a temple. It could have been something else. But let's get back into something more positive. I think there are a lot of connections to the Cosmere that you can notice, like just little gimmicks, nothing important, nothing spoilery in any way. If you've read the Alcatraz series, for example, you can see some parallels in there in terms of trying to find this magical device or any other way to get magical powers if you didn't have them before, or find a way to steal them from others. This kind of thing is in both books. Or, for example, just mentioning that there are other realms, other worlds, other planets. It was just very, very briefly mentioned, but it was in there. And also the word Cosmere, as I've shown you, I don't know, in part 1, I think. That's also mentioned in a humorous, just brief mention. And then in part 3, there is a secondary character also mentioned. Maybe he will play a bigger role in the next book, I don't know, or in a different series. You never know with Brandon Sanderson. And he is from a very distant place where there are other customs, obviously other cultures, and where he grew up, people wore masks like all the time, which is weird, but okay, why not? And there are hunters in this society who can basically grow into their masks somehow, which made me think of Stormlight Archive immediately. I don't know why. I mean, I do know, but it's still different. And then there's also other cool stuff going on that doesn't connect to anything. It's just cool, like a magical language device that was nice. So yeah, just learning about the world and the magic, that's the favorite part for me in the Mistborn series. I don't really care about the action, and I don't really care about any of the characters. So that brings me to another negative point. When one of the main characters, not going to tell you whom, and there are a lot of main characters, in my opinion. Main character doesn't mean for me that you have to read from their perspective. They just play a huge role and are basically always in there. So one of them experiences death in part 3, and I didn't feel anything. Like, it was just, okay, next sentence, next scene, whatever. And that's a very, very bad sign, I think. Also with any other emotional scenes, be it something shocking, something joyous, I don't know, something melancholy or whatever, I didn't care about any of that. But what was interesting is that after the death, there was some interesting conversations going on, some interesting choices or reveals or whatever, so that was interesting. What happens after death, that was explored in the book as well, so that was very cool. And yeah, anything else would just spoil books. I'm just going to end part 3 with saying Marasi, I don't know how to pronounce her name, she is just a very cool character. So that leaves us with the epilogue, which is very, very short. As you can see, just 7 pages. And there's nothing much going on, just some character growth, some emotional stuff, I guess. And there's also the mention of the coin scene with Hoyt again. So there's really some significant stuff going on with it, which is nice to see. Hoyt is not just a gimmick, he is part of the plot in here. Kind of. Just a bit, but he is there. And after reading this, there were some new questions that were raised. Like, I have more questions now than when I started the book, which is crazy. And there's just one more book to wrap up what is going on with these characters. So yeah, it's not a conclusion as I was hoping. There's really 4 books in Era 2. I didn't know that, but the postscript by the author, which is also very informative and nice, explains it as well. If you want to read through that, He says, yeah, you have questions, but I'll answer some of them also in the short story Secret History, which I'll read next, I think. Either that or Six of the Dusk. I think these are the two stories that I still need to read. So yeah, I'm hoping for some new interesting stuff about the world and the magic at this point. Like the whole Mistborn series, I've read most of them now. Only one is missing, but I have to read some other stuff before I can get to this. It's just mediocre for me. None of these I gave 4 stars. Like the best was 3.5, and it goes down to like 2 or 2.5, I don't remember. So they were all just okay. I'm glad I read them. There was always interesting stuff in there, but just too much action, too much fight stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my fault because I'm not the biggest fan of any of these initial setups that are happening. Like, I don't know if it's because of that, because I know Brandon Sanderson has written books that I gave 5 stars to because I love them, and the characters and the world and the plot and everything, the atmosphere. Don't know why I'm not vibing with Mistborn as much, but I'm going to continue reading them because of the Cosmere and the connections and the ideas that are in there. And they are very quick reads, so it doesn't matter. I don't spend too much time on them. For this one, it was like 2.5 days now, so that's not a lot. That's totally fine. So yeah, I hope he will write in Ghost Bloods. That's the next era that will happen. I don't know what it is about, but I hope there will not be too many westerns or gunfights or heists or crime or rogue misfits or kids with superpowers just fighting all the time or thieving crews, whatever. I don't know. I just hope it's different, but I don't think it will be. But who knows? You can always hope. So these are my thoughts. All in all, I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm very sorry. I rounded it up to 3 stars on Goodreads, so it was fine. I don't have anything against it, but I was just a little bit bored for most of the time. I don't really get why this is the cover as well. There are other things that I think would have been better for a cover, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I didn't enjoy the book too much. Maybe other people will think, yeah, that's a great cover for the story. Okay, I'm rambling on. Let's put this into the bookshelf and pick the next one. When I'm finished with this video, I'll have to do a lot of rearranging, I think, because this shelf is pretty much full at this point, and I want all the secret projects in one row, so I will have to probably move those into this shelf somewhere. Don't know where, but I'll probably find some space and rearrange everything. But for now, this will do. Let's just try to squeeze this in. Ta-da! And this is the next book. Just 6 more to go. Way! This vlog is going to be unending. Okay, Arcanum Unbounded, short story collection. Love the cover. It is quite long, but again, I've read most of these stories. Let's see in the overview right here. So I've read the preface, obviously, and then I've read all of these that have a rating already. This Guardian system is mostly about the Mistborn world, so in the ratings you can also see how I like his works. Like Mistborn is my least favorite. And then all the other stuff was amazing that I've read so far. So I'm reading the Secret History next, which is pretty long, and then end up the collection with Six of the Dusk, which is not too long. And I'll give you my thoughts after I finish each of these stories. I will not talk about the others. I'm just going to say it's one of the best short story collections, minus the Mistborn stuff. Like, this is amazing. I didn't expect to love these stories. I think my favorite is Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell, because it's very, very different from all that I've read by Brandon Sanderson so far. But I also really like Edge Dancer. Very cool main character. But yeah, I think this one is even better. Let's see if these can compare to my favorites. And this is where I'm stopping for day number 3, which is like this much of the story. And that's, wait, on which page am I? I'm on page 243. Well, yeah, that's correct. And I started somewhere around 200. That's all I managed to read, but I have to say I really enjoy the story, even though it follows a well-known character from the first Mistborn era. I still like it. Again, it's something that focuses more on ideas and less on just fight scenes and action and humor. And again, this is about this character from Mistborn that we all know. The character died in Mistborn, and now they experience life after death, if you can call it life. So that's very interesting, and it really connects to some moments from the first Mistborn era. Like, there are scenes taken from it, and then you have some more background information of what was going on with this character who is dead at the same time, because he's seeing what is happening. Jesus, this is sounding so confusing, but it is also confusing when you read it. And there's a lot of names and a lot of just weird stuff happening. It's really cool. Oh my god. Blindly writing something down looks awful. Why did I do that? Anyways, this was amazing. So now, on day 4, I only have 60 more pages to go with 6 of the Dusk. Know nothing about it, but we still have to briefly talk about the Secret History, which is very overwhelming and complex in the beginning, especially for me, who has read the first Mistborn trilogy like years ago. It was one of the first things I've read by Brandon Sanderson, I think. And I don't know if it was a good or a bad thing to read the Secret History so much later, because I felt a little bit too dumb to fully understand why this is a spoiler for Bands of Mourning, for example. To fully understand the Secret History, you need to have a fresh mind of Mistborn Era 2, and also Stormlight Archive, and also Elantris, and also Mistborn Era 2. You can read it without knowing in-depth knowledge about it, but then you won't get to understand every single scene or sentence. Again, I rated it a 5-star, even though I did not understand everything. I'm just saying that if you want to, without researching other people talking about it, you will have to read all of these other things or have a very, very good memory. For me, it was helpful to just read some random Reddit posts explaining some stuff, some connections, some characters and magic systems again. And also, I watched a YouTube video by Two to Ramble, I think that's what they're called. They talked like almost an hour just about the Secret History and all the characters and the world building, which was very, very fun and also very helpful. So all in all, it was kind of cool to not have that knowledge, because I just love confusing and complex stuff. So when I read the Secret History, I was always like, what the hell, who's this character, that's new, oh my god, what's happening now? Like, it was thrilling for me in that sense. I love being overwhelmed sometimes, similar to a Jeff Vandermeer book, for example. But I don't know, if I've read it closer to Mistborn Era 2, I would know the characters and could understand the connections more, but maybe I would have been bored because I already knew all the characters. I don't know. Could have been worse or better. For example, to make you understand my brain more, when I read The Secret History, didn't know that Ruin and Preservation were characters in Mistborn Era 1. I didn't know. Completely forgot them. Same with Spook, for example, or Gamel, or even Hoyt, because he's not mentioned as Hoyt in Mistborn Era 1, I believe. So in Secret History there is a scene where Hoyt is also, and I didn't know because it wasn't mentioned that it is Hoyt. It just was a character that had, I don't know if he even had a name, but somehow you could connect him to Hoyt. Which now makes sense because someone explained it to me, but I didn't see it. Oh yeah, one more person, the Lord Ruler, had no idea who he is, who he was, whatever. So that is very unhelpful because it's important to know that with all the Sovereign and Lord Ruler theories going on and reveals. I was very confused about that. Took me some time to understand what the hell is revealed in the Secret History about that, but yeah, no, I think I understand now. I'm not quite sure though. And then there is a postscript after every short story in here, which is very cool, where the author, Brandon Sanderson, talks about maybe where his idea came from or what are his thoughts on the characters and so on. And in The Secret History, he mentioned that he left some new hints in Mistborn Era 2 about some stuff that was also revealed in here. So you could now read Mistborn Era 2 again to see if you can find any freaking hints. And he also mentioned that there is a possibility to write Secret History 2 and 3 to make it easier for us readers to understand his hints. But he also said that maybe he doesn't have the time for it. And damn, I need those. I'm not smart enough on my own. I need some help, please. But let's talk about my thoughts. More about the content itself. So in The Secret History, you get a lot of insight into the magic and the world of the Cosmere. So it connects a lot of books from Brandon Sanderson that have existed on their own, and now they start to finally come together a little bit more. Not like characters from one planet meet other characters from other planets. I don't think so. But just seeing the connections between the magic is very prevalent and explained in here. So if you wanted to know more about shards, for example, or about the planets, the gods, and even the realms, it's in here. And it's really, really interesting and fascinating. So this is, as it says, about Mistborn, Era 1 and Era 2 a little bit, but also connects to the Stormlight Archive. And even a little bit about Elantris. I think this is the first story that connects all of these in a very obvious way. I don't think I've seen that before, and I really love that about the story. I also have a little theory about Waxilium now. Like, look at his name and then look at some of the shards. It does seem like a very interesting choice of name now to me. That's all I'm going to say. But if you also read it without wanting to know more about it because it's just complex stuff that you don't care about, you also understand scenes and characters much more, especially talking about Mistborn Era 1 for now. So if you've read the whole trilogy and then you read Secret History, you will understand this trilogy much more, because some scenes in Secret History take place at the same time of some things that happen in Mistborn. Like, it's the same scene but from a different perspective that was like hidden before, that you didn't notice that there was something going on in the background of it. So that was really cool. We're talking about scenes with Gamel in it, with Vin in it, with Spook, with Kelsier, with Preservation and Ruin and so on. That was so nice. That's the only thing that I miss about not having read the Mistborn trilogy, Era 1, whatever. sooner, no, not sooner, closer together to the secret history, just to understand it more, to really have that big impact. But yeah, it's okay. I remembered some scenes, not all of them, but yeah, I was still shocked and surprised, and really think that this is a very, very important story to read. There's also mentioned a character called Chris, who is just, again, someone who works in the background, hasn't really been a character in any of the stories I've read. She is from White Sand, which, again, doesn't interest me unless it is written in prose, the graphic novel, which is also a little bit in here. White Sand, where you can see it's a graphic novel. I love the world and the magic in it, but again, I don't like this comic style particularly. There was also the script for it behind the actual comic strips, which I loved much more. Like in prose, I would love to read about White Sand, not about the graphic novel version, honestly. So there is this Chris character who is just writing notes and explanations in other books. For example, Stormlight Archive, you sometimes have illustrations where there are some random notes from someone, that is Chris. And then you have books where at the back you have the Arcanum, which also explains like metals and magic systems. That's also Chris. And she is very briefly mentioned in Secret History as well, which was kind of cool. And she was probably in Bands of Mourning as well, because there was a mysterious woman at the party where Wax was, just asking him some weird questions and then vanishing. Probably has been Chris as well, I don't know. But you don't only have just well-known characters in here, there's also new places, new characters in here, so it makes it just all the more fascinating, in my opinion. And there's also action. It's not just explaining stuff and seeing scenes that you have already read about. There's also new action, some fighting in it, but it's very atmospheric. I really, really enjoyed the action in here. And although it seems to be very long, it reads very quickly because the chapters are super short. There's some white space in between. Am I in the right story? Oh yeah, perfect. Like you have some white space, very short chapters and multiple parts in it. Well, of course, this one is a long chapter. So part 6 in the novella, so you have some white space again. And you can read it very quickly. All the chapters and parts, they seem to be very different from each other. So it's always exciting to read. You don't want to put it down, find out more, get to the next place or next encounter. So that was really cool. And the only thing that I, again, want to mention about... I mean, you follow one main character in here, one perspective that you read from, which is the character from Mistborn Era 1. And in the postscript, the author said that they knew that this person who, that I said early on, they died, and then Secret History is about what happens to the character after death. And the author knew from the start, from Mistborn Era 1, that this person was going to take up a bigger role, which is just crazy to me because there are so many years in between. And he knew it all along, and we were just clueless, reading his books just for entertainment, just to find out now that he left all of these clues in the books. And it's crazy. It's nice. I really love it. That's also one thing that I love about books, like just showing you how complex the world actually is, and that the author really pays attention and has a lot of ideas before even writing. So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to read the last story, 60 more pages. But yeah, then I'm going to be done with Arcanum, which is... Arcanum, right. With Arcanum Unbounded, which is going to be one of my favorite short story collections. expeditions haven't returned. Speaking of Vandermeer, is this what's happening right now? Oh shit, what the fuck? Okay. Sounds interesting. And I'm done with the collection. And I think the cover art is from the last story that I read, which is very fitting. So, the last story, haven't rated it yet. I don't know, I think it's a 4. Is it a 4? Is it a 5? I don't know. Felt like a prologue to a bigger story and not the whole story in itself, if you can understand. I don't know. So let's give it a 4 to 5. Yeah, that feels right. Again, all in all, great collection. In Six of the Dusk, which is not super duper long, let's look at the picture that fits the story, hopefully. We have a new planet introduced that we've never read from before in any of the Brandon Sanderson books published prior to Six of the Dusk. And it's the same planet and the same characters from Isles of the Emberdark, because Isles of the Emberdark is just an expansion of the novella. So I'm really excited to be reading Isles of the Emberdark eventually. And I'm sure when I get to it, I'll have completely forgotten everything that I've read in here and will be confused, similarly to Secret History, but it's going to be fine, because Secret History was still great in the end, so who cares if I remember everything or not. So, in the story, we have a dangerous jungle on an isolated island, surrounded by a lot of water and monsters inside these waters. So the island basically just consists of beach and jungle is dangerous, and everything surrounding it is dangerous as well. Great. Another important thing is the bird companions. These play a big role. I won't explain it. I don't want to spoil anything from the story, just give you some initial starting points to make you interested in it if you haven't read about it. And yeah, I like the setting very much. I love stuff like this. And the bird companions were something new, something interesting. I'm not the biggest bird fan, but sure, why not? Magical birds sounds great. And then we follow this man who is called Dusk, and he is traveling / I think living on this island and just going about his daily life and having great visions of himself lying dead just beside himself, because again, it's a dangerous island and he can be glad to have the talent to see the visions, to see, oh yeah, this dead body of myself has a bite from something, so I should probably leave this place, go somewhere else, and not get bitten. Stuff like that. So he sees himself all the time. The illustration that was somewhere, I'm not going to find it now, was all him. All these people were him, which is kind of crazy and misleading in a way, because the story isn't brutal or bloody or anything. I mean, yeah, there is some danger, but the illustration looked very violent. So he's going about his life, and everyone else who goes on this island dies. So from time to time he's going to see some corpses or some things that have been left there, some objects or, I don't know, clothes or whatever. So that is described to the reader. Very fun. And why are even people going there? Great question. Well, you know, society sometimes evolves, sometimes thinks that progress equals frontier expansion and encroachment, so that's what's happening right here. Modern society, so to speak, trying to get rid of the uncharted island, the nature and wildlife. So they're going on expeditions on this freaking dangerous, deadly island, because why not? And Dusk is always thinking like, why are these people so dumb, making these dumb decisions? Of course they're dying. Which was kind of funny, actually. But, yeah, his life changes when he finds a woman in his camp, wherever he lives, who is alive. So she's intruding, they get into a conversation, and the plot starts. And that's everything I'm going to tell you about it. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't mind-blowing, just because it felt like the beginning of it. But yeah, done with that one. And without further ado, just get rid of it. I mean, not get rid of it. Put it in a shelf and start the new one. Now, I know it's really dark. I know you probably can't see shit. But I think you're able to see that the shelf is freaking filled. But I don't care. I'll deal with it later. Fortunately, I have lights where I have the Sanderson books that I have to read. So next up is Rithmatist. Honestly, looks like yet another steampunk novel, and on Goodreads it says it's book 1 in a series, but when was this published? Please and thank you. 2013. And there's no sequel. So I hope you can read it as a standalone, because at this point it is one. Same with Elantris, like, it can be read as a standalone, but he plans on doing sequels, maybe? Multiple? I don't know. So, just hoping this is the same. Ooh, look that cool. And a bunch of other illustration thingies, and oh my god. Looks interesting. What is it about? Love the sticker. Yeah, it's beautiful. Just ignore it. Rithmatists have powers. Yeah, of course. Blah blah. Chalkmaker Academy. Ooh, learn the magical art. Love that. That's something new. I love the school setting with magic. And sounds like it's young adult. Well-crafted mix of action. No! I mean, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And it's not too long, I think. Where's the first page? Oh, 380. Yeah, that's nice. What the fuck was that? Okay. Just a very normal page. So, yeah, I'll get into it. I don't know when I'll update. I don't know. Are there parts? Let's see. Basic defense, yeah, sure. Basic, very basic. Part, yay! Okay, so if there are not too many parts, I'll go part by part to update you. Me, I'll go part by part, and then I'll just update you after the first freaking page I read. Whatever. My rules. My channel. So, this... what even is it? Is it a prologue? Or is it a prologue to a prologue? It's something. A scene from a point of view of Lily, who's probably one of the students at the school, and she's doing some chalk stuff thingy on the floor, and then someone else comes, and she doesn't want them probably in the space, but here they are. And then there are things, which is why I'm updating you, because they sound interesting, and they are bone white forms made of chalk, and they're terrible. What? We have chalk monsters in here, like 2D chalk monsters. Love it. Already love it. Here I am again, and haven't started. I'm just on the map. Whatever. So the United Isles. Here we have all the cool academies and where they are. Very, very cool. Is this related to the Alcatraz series? I mean, I kind of feel familiar about this, but again, my brain and my memories, they are fleeting. I don't know, but I think this is connected to something. I'm just not sure what. End of the update. Just kidding, not any end of the update, it's the next page. Jesus. I'm not planning to update you every single page. It just happens because it's fascinating, it's new, and it's interesting and exciting and synonym. So, basic Eastern defense, that's what the girl from the beginning was trying to do, I think. This is called a nonagon, of course. Don't just call it circle, it's a nonagon. Is this a term that you use? Is this official or is this a fantasy thing? Never heard a nonagon. Maybe it's something else. Maybe that's not the nonagon. Maybe the nonagon is this. I don't know. It's interesting. And look, at the next page I already glimpsed it. It's a chalk figure, I think. Maybe it's something from Stone Ages. Or maybe it's a chalk figure. This one too. Scribblings made out of chalk. I'm predicting it. Sorry for calling you chalk monsters or something else. Now I know you're chalklings, which is so much cuter. Oh, don't get upset. I'm not updating you on the content. I'm just updating you on what I've done for day 4. So I'm ending on page 19, which is just basically reading the prologue and looking at this wonderful overview of everything you can do with chalk. Of course, this one is the best. No idea what forbiddance means and vigor, but I'm going to find out tomorrow. Part 2. So I'm a little bit into part 2. I've read some pages in it, and I'm almost 1/3 of the way through the book. And I can give you my updates for part 1. So now we're on day 5, if anyone is interested in that, I don't know. And I'm on chapter 9, but I'm only going to talk about the prologue, which I've already done, and part 1. In this book, we know that it is about chalk magic, and that you have to draw, like, circles and chalklings. So I thought it was just about art and a little bit of being able to draw a circle, but there's a little bit more to it. There's a little bit more mathematics going on, so that's a nice combination, art and mathematics in it. And then these chalklings are the bad guys, because they want to do bad stuff, I guess. I don't know. There's an island in this kingdom where these chalklings are, and everyone is trying to keep them on this island. So they have a real big round circle around this island to protect the kingdom from these chalklings. But sometimes they get out, and that's bad, I think. I don't know. The book makes me think that it's something bad. I don't know if it is. All in all, the whole vibe of this book, I don't know which vibe is going on here. Like, I haven't felt the steampunk vibe so far. It's more like Witch Hat Atelier because of the magic, and there's a school setting mixed with some Harry Potter. Same reasons, actually, but the professors really feel like Harry Potter characters, and some of the students as well. And then there's also magical duels going on, which is very Harry Potter-like. But then there's also, if you enjoy, by Brandon Sanderson, things like Elantris, the magic system is kind of similar to that. Or if you really like the character of Shallan from the Stormlight Archives, this could also be something that you're very interested in, because she does have this art magic stuff as well. Different from this one, but again, it's art. This story is actually taking place in the 20th century. I don't know if they mean the 20th century of the real world that we know, because in the beginning we have this map with these weird names. So it might be an alternate universe of our 20th century, or it might be something else entirely. I don't know. We have one main character that we follow, basically, because everything is written from his perspective, and I don't think that's going to change after a third of the book. Who knows? And that is Joel. Joel is a teenager, and he's just your typical human being. No magic, no superpowers. Maybe. I don't know, his brain is different. And he's very much interested in magic, but he can't do it, apparently. I don't know if that changes. So he's like a squib from the Harry Potter universe right now. He's like into magic, he's involved in the magic world, kind of, but he can't do magic at this point. And then there's also Melody, same age, also goes to the same school, and she has these magical powers. She has been chosen to use them and have them, and the people who have magics, they are called Rithmatists, which is why the book is called The Rithmatist. And the magic itself is called Rithmatics, probably because there's mathematics involved. Well, didn't think about that before, but yeah, makes sense now. And Melody doesn't like her magic, so you have these two contrasting characters. They are interacting, and one of them wants to do the magic and can't, and one has the magic and doesn't really care about it. Melody's more into drawing unicorns, and she thinks arithmetics are overrated. So that's a fun interaction between those two characters. I like both of these characters, and I'm interested in what's going to happen. I love the school setting. We have a lot of insight into the lessons and the magic system, and just what the characters like, and the relationships with other people and so on. That's really cool. It's very fast-paced, which is also nice, but I mean, it is for a younger audience, so it makes sense. But this 1/3 felt like really nothing. And there's also a mathematics teacher who is called Professor Layton, and I can't help myself but picturing him as Professor Layton from the Nintendo video game series. Like, that is him for me. I know he looks very different, and he doesn't really act like Professor Layton would, but I don't know. It's just who he is because of his name. And then part 2 begins with the murder mystery, where our main character Joel is really starting to investigate this murder mystery. This one student who has died on campus, but he's doing his investigations alone, behind everyone. It's the main plot, except Joel wanting to do magic. That's the one plot for part 1, and then part 2 also enters this murder mystery. So yeah, exciting so far. I'll update you when I get to part 3, I guess. Part 3 is like, wait, where am I? I'm on page 112, and like part 3 starts in 90 pages. If nothing happens, I'll read even more. Maybe even finish the whole book, who knows, because it's a young adult book. It's not super complex. I don't know if I have to update you every single 100 pages. As a little side note, look what has arrived in mail today. I got one of the next few books that I have to read for my Brandon Sanderson project. This is Dawnshard. It's super tiny. Like, this is a paperback, which is also not the biggest, and then you have Dawnshard, which is just tiny. It's so cute. Like, there's nothing on one page. So cool. But I knew it was like a shorter book. And that's the end of day 5. Halfway through the book. Almost at part 3. And nothing really to report on. There's more murder going on, more investigation, more character interactions. So yeah, I'll just go to sleep, and I'll see you on day 6. There's no bookmark, and it's the end of day 6 already. So that means I finished the book without updating you, because there was nothing happening except for spoilery stuff, so I didn't want to talk about that. In part 2, they were just still investigating, finding out some more interesting stuff about the magic and the dad of the main character. And now in part 3, the culprit was revealed for the murders, and it wasn't my number one suspect, but I had him on my mind that much. Then there was a boring happy ending, but it makes sense for a young adult book because it got really dark and violent at one point, and it makes sense to make a happy ending out of it afterwards. And then the very last chapter is a very cool chalk art competition that was really nice. Loved to read that. And again, I'll say this is really for Harry Potter fans, because some of the characters really feel like Dumbledore or Hagrid or even Snape and stuff, and Hermione and whatever. It was really, really cool, and the magic is really nice. I just hope Brandon Sanderson is eventually writing a sequel, but I doubt it at this point. I don't know. But who knows? I would read it. You can kind of read it as a standalone. It answers many questions, and it doesn't leave on a real cliffhanger, but it was meant to be more than one book. Definitely. I mean, the very last words are... That's the last words of the story, so we just have to pray for the sequel, I guess. But yeah, it's time to shelve it and to move on to the next one. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm giving this 4 stars. Very solid book. Didn't blow me away. At this point, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of murder mystery and crime stuff, but everything else was very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, thank God the books are white, because this looks like there's nothing in it. They are just flying around in the blackness. I promise you there's a shelf, and I want to shelve it there, but... Oh god, can I do it without destroying everything? Oh jeez. Yep. It's in there. Go there. To the side. Oh, you can't see it. Great. It's hidden forever. I promise, it's behind there. Oh jeez. Yeah, I don't have good lighting in this room. Let's get to the well-lit corner. Grab Steelheart. Ta-da! I hope it's not too similar to what I just read, because again, this is not Cosmere related, so it takes place in a similar world. And I think this is also young adult, I don't know. But so far, Brandon Sanderson manages to always write very different stories, so I'm not too worried about that. So there's something about Calamity. Ordinary man gave extraordinary powers, okay. They are epics. Okay. Oh, and they are the bad ones. Oh. Okay. Well, it's kind of similar, because the main character from Rithmatist is also just an ordinary human. But it's okay, it's going to be different enough. I'm gonna be fine. So far, there's no murder mystery on this synopsis. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind. Never mind. But apparently he knows who the murderer is, so there's no mystery about that. It's just a revenge plot. Okay. Well. Okay, action-packed. Okay. Marvel Comics. No! Oh god. Okay. Let's see. I know a lot of people love Steelheart, so I'm going into it with an open mind. Low expectations for sure, but that can also be helpful. Anything else helpful in here? Oh yeah, I do not own mitosis. Is this how you call it? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm a foreigner. So if I pronounce something in the wrong way, that's why. I know this is just like 50 pages between book 1 and book 2, and it's part of a short story collection, Tailored Realities, maybe? Which I will read in the future, but it's going to be after I've read the whole series. So I'm just skipping that right now. I don't think it's too important to read it. Wait, what? Wasn't I reading Steelheart? Well, yeah. I already finished it yesterday. It's like 2 days later. And I started book 2 already. So, why is that? I mean, it's not my favorite book and I didn't want to rant about it a long time, so I just decided to finish it and then give you my overall thoughts. So it's basically just what the synopsis says. We have this post-apocalyptic world where everything is dark but in a crimson light, so it's always nighttime, and everything, the whole city, all the buildings are made out of metal. So that's because of two people with superpowers. One made it all metal and the other made it like dark all the time. And then we have our main character who lives in there, and he is joining this group who is fighting the epics, the bad guys, who are also just bad guys. Like, the ones they are fighting, they're just bad. Nothing more to them. And he also wants to take revenge on the murderer of his father, who is Steelheart. So that is what's happening in here. They are just hunting down different epics, killing them, and then moving on to the next one. I like the idea of this post-apocalyptic world, but apart from what I told you, there's not really anything going on. We never really see any interesting stuff about the world. We don't see any people living in it, which was weird. We don't learn anything about our main character, about his past life, just a brief scene from his childhood, which was great. I liked reading that. And then he is suddenly an adult and just on his hunt. Like, we learn that he went to school for some time, he worked in a factory, but we never experienced that. He met some people, but yeah, we don't know about that. It's just skipped over and talked about in dialogue sometimes. And then there, in this group that he joins, there are a lot of different people, and then at some point one of them has a bad time in a fight. That's all I'm going to say. And then something interesting is revealed about them that I didn't see coming, so that was quite nice. There's also a different reveal about a different person in the group, which I didn't really care about, but yeah, okay, sure. It was very similar to the other reveal, so it was like, oh, okay, this person as well. Okay, why not? But the funniest thing about my copy is, if we go to the last page of my copy, like, this last page is glued to this page. Nothing has been ripped out. Why am I saying that? Well, because my copy just ends mid-sentence. And then this is it. Like, when I was reading, I was googling, like, what the fuck? Is this really the end of Steelheart? What am I reading? And then I found out that there are 41 chapters. I mean, I have the beginning of the chapter, but it's definitely not the end of it, because there's also an epilogue and acknowledgements and probably some blank pages at the end of the book. So I have a really nice misprint right here. Lovely, I love it. Of course, I only noticed it like over a month after I bought it, which, considering how many books I have, this is pretty early. But yeah, I'm not going to get my money back because it's too late now. What the fuck? I didn't even buy a used copy. This is a regular copy that I got, and it's just awful. It's the first time this ever happened to me. I've had a few instances with books where the print of the words was like missing on some pages, I think, where there were just half of the words and then blank stuff on the other half, which was also quite funny, but I noticed that because you can easily notice it if you go like that through a book. But I mean, if you didn't know that there would have been an epilogue, how would you have noticed before that? Before reading it, I mean. Yeah. But these are my thoughts. I'm already moving on to book 2, and it's pretty much the same thing as book 1, but without a nice, interesting prologue. It's just right into the regular action again. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep these books. So far I've kept every single Brandon Sanderson book, but this might be my first unhaul. I don't know. Depends on if the series can get better. Again, I skipped this one, and then there's just one more book, so we'll see. I mean, I love having some more space on my shelf, so I don't have to keep everything by an author, even if it's an author I read everything from. I mean, it is a fast-paced read. I finished this in one day, and it has, like, well, my copy has 380 pages. Probably has, I don't know, 10, 15 pages more in the regular edition. But it's just crazy. Whatever. Let's show it for now. This was meant to be for the Reckoners. Yeah, Reckoner series, but I don't know. I might have some, oh no, space for something else. Get here. Alright. Like that. So that's how it looks right now. Would have been more than enough space for 2 more books and then some other things as well, but yeah. So far, that's what my shelves look like. It's day 10 and I'm finished with book 2, and I've already started book 3, which maybe I'll finish today, but I don't know. It's still 300 pages, which is quite a lot, and it's already evening. So before it gets dark, I wanted to update you on book 2, which is much better than book 1, I think. Like, book 1 was for me a more 2 out of 5 star book, and the second one is more of a 3 star, so I liked it. But again, I wasn't really excited about anything that was happening, apart from, I don't know, maybe the last third of the book. That was really good, because a lot of interesting stuff was happening. And finally some reveals. So let's get through it. In this one we have a new location, a new city, which you can see on the cover. And if you take a closer look, these white spaces are actually water. So we have a half-sunken city. Like in the first one, I think we had the New York City, and this one is Manhattan. So now it's like more like a Venice, you could say. There's also something else happening in the city which you can't really see on the cover now. The whole city is glowing in neon lights, as if it is spray painted, like all the buildings. Not all of them, but a lot of spaces on the buildings. That's the light in the city. They don't have any other electricity. It's just this freaking neon graffiti on everything. Also on plants, on the food that they eat. It's all glowing. The clothes. All kinds of surfaces are glowing in this neon light. So it's an interesting contrast between this Venice and the neon lights. And I think this city feels much more lively. Like, we have normal people that sometimes appear and do stuff, or even talk to our main characters. There's life happening. It's not just about the fights with the epics. The main story is still pretty much the same as from the first one. The main character is hunting different epics, trying to kill them, and then because it's a new city, there are new people from these reckoners, right? Yeah. That he meets. They don't really play a huge role, but they are in book 3 as well, but I don't know. I'm not connected to any of them. We obviously have more new epics, which were kind of interesting. Like, we have one that is doing all the water stuff, another is doing all the neon glowing stuff, which was quite interesting. We also already learn about Calamity in here, and it's like a big reveal that Calamity is also an epic. Like, I knew from book 1. It just made sense. I don't know. Sorry if that's a spoiler for you, but I think it's pretty obvious. All in all, there is less fighting, less dull planning on how to fight these epics and then executing these plans. It's just more about the actual plot, talking about interesting stuff. There's also a romance subplot, which I didn't mind. So all in all, there's much more variety. It doesn't feel as repetitive as book 1. There's also, which was my favorite part actually, this magical fortune cookie plant. It's just crazy. How did he come up with that? But I love that idea, and the person who has to do with this fortune cookie plant is also, I think, my favorite. I don't know. You can't really say favorite. I don't really love any of the characters, but I think that one is the most interesting so far. I don't think they have come up in book 3 yet, so maybe they aren't important, or maybe I didn't read if anything happened to them in book 2. I don't know. Maybe I missed some vital information I didn't know about. And all in all, the book just got better and better. Like, it started very boring, then the middle was alright, and then the last third was pretty good, I would say. We learn a lot about the epics, like how did they even become epics? It's mentioned in here, and then also why they are as violent and deadly, like why do they even like to kill people? That's also explained in here, so that was interesting, but also kind of predictable from book 1. So the main character is already struggling with, can I trust any epics? Are they all bad? Can I maybe even find a way to make them less evil? Which is also a huge plot point in the 3rd book. Because something happens to one of the group members at the end of the book. And yeah, that's just, I don't know, it's just spoilers, I can't really talk about it. I mean, it was obvious because they have talked about that could happen, and then it happened. So no surprise there. What was surprising is that I finally have an epilogue. I also have that in book 3, fortunately. So in book 3, as you can see, we have a castle. But only like in the very first few chapters or pages. And then we're again in a new town, which is not on the cover. I don't know if the castle will return, but hasn't been important that much so far. Oh, don't read that if you don't want to get spoiled. Sorry. So we're in a new city, and I forgot which city it was. Was it something like Alabama? I don't know. But it's a city that is made completely out of salt. So that's interesting, I guess. I mean, similar to making something out of sand, for example. I don't know. Yeah, it's not really a good construction material, I would say. So the problem is that the city is just collapsing every 7 days and then rebuilding itself. So if you live there, good luck always finding your home after 7 days, because it's going to rebuild itself somewhere else in town, not where it was before. Not sure how that functions. Even the plants are made of salt. Like, there was a tree described which was out of salt, which is also crazy. I like the idea, but I don't know if that's a town to live in. I don't really understand why people are there. Other towns sounded more livable, like even the Venice thing, even if it's half sunken, sounded more like something that you can actually live in. Like, the building just made out of salt, and the only way to get water is by rain, so I don't know if I want to live there. So that's everything that I have to mention about book 3. Like, I don't know, a third through it, and they're just fighting and doing boring stuff so far. I'm very sorry if this is like your favorite series. If you enjoy it, I'm really glad for you. I would love to enjoy it as well. I just think that nothing interesting for me personally is happening in here. So yeah, I'll just move on, and then I'll update you when I'm finished with it, and then I can finally move on to Oathbringer. And I did it! It's finished, finally. I actually did finish it yesterday, which was crazy. I don't think I've read that many pages in one single day for a long time, if ever. But yeah, I wanted to finish it. That was my motivation. So I don't really have to say that much about the series. There was just non-stop fighting and talking and fighting and talking and repeating all the same things in this book, and it was even sometimes confusing because it was like random and irrelevant scenes in there, and something about parallel worlds all of a sudden that was never mentioned in any of the other books. Characters from the second book never turn up again, they are irrelevant, and then it just ends in a predictable way, but it's an ending, it's okay. But yeah, I was missing some good plot in here. So, unfortunately, since this is not connected to the Cosmere, it's just a series that you can read whenever you want to, I'm probably going to unhaul it, so it's going on the unhaul pile for now. So, there you go. And that means I can finally start the book I was most excited about for the vlog, which is Oathbringer. Not sure who this lady is. Could be the scholar from book 1. I don't remember her name, but I don't know. Or maybe, but she doesn't look... I don't know. Or she's the love interest from, like, what's he called? Dalina? Colon? Could also be. I don't know. Like, in this edition, it's really crazy. You get some illustrations as end papers. This is just a normal edition. Nothing special about it. You can just get it online. And you have amazing illustrations as end papers. And then on the dust jacket, on the reverse, you also have a cool colored map. This was originally what was on the end papers for the other books, so this is so cool to see it now in this way, and I think book 4 did the same, with cool character illustrations on the end papers and the map on here. So that's nice. You always get this on the naked hardback, always looks different, and yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this has 1200 pages, which will take me a while. I'm trying to finish it in the month of July, but we have the 26th today, so I don't know if I can do that. That means I have to read like every day, the whole day. And to be honest, I have no idea who all these people are. Like, she looks freaking cool. Maybe she's from Warbreaker? I don't know. I think you were meant to read Warbreaker before Oathbringer, or before Rhythm of War. Could also be possible. And then that guy, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? I don't know. I have no idea who these people are. She looks Warbreaker-ish as well, because of the color stuff. I don't know. I'm just excited. She doesn't have any shoes on. What the hell? But that dress, fabulous. Fabulous, looked good on her. Oh my god, look at all these books, and I've read, I hope, every one by now. Crazy, crazy. Yeah. Dalina. I don't even love Dalina that much. I like Shalon and Kaladin, right? I think those are the names much more. I like those characters much more, and I think in Rhythm of War there are even more minor characters introduced. Maybe even in here, I have no idea. Okay, so that's preface. I love all the illustrations in these books. They are so cool. The map again. And then it starts. Okay. I have no idea when I'll update you. Whether parts. Oh, jeez. How does it start? Where's part 1? That was chapter 2 already. Wow. Parts, okay. But the problem is, like, these are packed with information, and the parts are quite long sometimes. I don't know. Maybe if I have enough interesting stuff, I will just update you randomly on some random pages and chapters. I don't know. I'm just excited to finally get into this world again and into this much better writing, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, because I love this type of fantasy more. Okay. I'm gonna read now. Okay, so I'm 200 pages into the book, which is like nothing because this book has 1200 and it's already the next day. I love this freaking bookmark. It's so cute. Look at it. And yeah, where am I going? So I'm still in part 1. I was thinking about actually doing it part by part. Am I stupid? Where's the contents page? Oh, right here. Got it. So that would have meant that I update you on page 327, but I already have like so many thoughts, so I have to update you sooner. Maybe I can do it part by part later on, because I think the parts are getting a bit shorter. I mean, part 3 is freaking long again. This one's around 200 pages. And this one as well, so yeah, maybe. I don't know. So at the beginning of part 1, we're just going through all the 3 main characters again. Wait, let me see if I can find it. Part 1. So we have, well, it's mostly the first 3 characters. I mean, he is important as well, but not that important, because most of the things that he is doing we learn from the perspective of one of the others. Without trying to spoil you, I mean, this is book 3. I don't know what I can say and what I cannot, so I'm very sorry if I mention anything that is a spoiler. I really am trying my best to not spoil you. So we're going through all the main characters. We have multiple chapters from the same perspective at the beginning to really just get into the book again, get into the characters and their circumstances, like what happened in the last book, where are they now, what are their plans, all that kind of stuff. So that was nice, nothing too new or overwhelming happening. We learn about the portals again and the storms and some stuff that happened at the end of book 2 that I even forgot, like one character that was killed. I didn't remember. And then also, I don't know if it happened in book 2, but Ishanai, I apologize for any pronunciations, like these character names are crazy sometimes. Ishanai was among humans, which was not something I remembered. That was interesting. So let's get into what actually happened, what interested me, without spoiling anything. So in part 1 we have a wedding, which was very cool. Like, not cool, you can't say a wedding was cool, can you? I don't know, it was a cute wedding, you could say that. Not emotional for me personally, but that's because I don't really love the characters, but it was a nice moment for them. What was emotional for me is one of the family reunions that happened in here. Like, one of the characters goes back to their hometown and reunites with the family, which was just so cute. And they also learn about someone that is new to the family. Don't know the pronunciation. Oroden, maybe. I don't know if that character is going to be important in later books, or maybe even in this book later on. I hope, but I don't know, maybe it was just a nice little remark. So in maybe book 1, maybe book 2, I don't really remember, we learn more about the childhood of this character who goes to the hometown, so we already know how it had been for the character in the past, living there and so on, and living with their family. So it was just nice to see them back again in this dynamic. It says right here, page 76, 5 years had passed and 4 lifetimes. That sums it up perfectly. On the one hand, 5 years is a lot of time without seeing your family, but also it's quite short because so much has happened in that time. I don't know, I like that quote. So yeah, a lot of much needed changes are happening in that perspective, which I love to see, also because it's a new setting, so it's interesting and exciting. Apart from that, there are also a lot of mysteries already that I just took some notes on. I have 3 interesting mysteries. I mean, there is a 4th, there's another murder mystery going on, but I'm not into murder mysteries, so I don't really care. I want to mention the other 3 mysteries that I'm intrigued about so far. So, mystery number 1 are the little snippets at the beginning of every chapter. They don't happen in the prologue. Sure. Right here. So, before the chapter starts, you always have, in every single book, like a quote from something. This time it is from Oathbringer, which is the title of the book. I'll come to that later. And then you have little quotes for every chapter to read. And it's never revealed in any of the books, like, what the significance of them are. Or maybe I'm just too stupid and it was between the lines. But for this one, I'm pretty sure I know who the quotes are from, like who the author of them is. But I still don't know what the significance of them is, because all the snippets, like, read the same with different words. Like something that they really want to share and need to talk about, but they haven't yet mentioned what it is. It's all from the preface so far. Okay, mystery number 2 are the powers of Renarin, because he has magical abilities, but we don't know what they are so far, and I think they are about some mental stuff, like maybe he can read thoughts or something, or I don't know, see into people's memories or something. I don't know, it must be something like that, because there was a moment where he was looking at someone else, and we as a reader know that that person has done something that should be a secret, but I don't know, it felt like Renarin knew about it, so he maybe has some abilities to do with that. I don't know. And then mystery number 3 that I'm interested in is learning more about the past of Dalana Colon, because in book 3 we also have chapters that are from his past, like from 30 years ago, that we read about. And from book 1 you know that he had a wife who has died, and Dalana doesn't remember anything about the wife. Like, even if people say her name, he doesn't hear it. It's just like static on radio, where for a moment he can't hear what the people are saying. So that's really interesting, and I hope we learn more about that person in these past chapters. I already know, like on page 200 already, that now all of a sudden he can hear the name, but it's not explained like why or who the person is, so it's not really a spoiler. What I think could have happened, I mean, there so far I haven't seen any hints about what could have happened, so this is really just speculation on what I think would be an interesting thing to reveal. I'm kind of scared that he had to do something with the death of the wife, just because I know, like, that would be interesting. It would be very tragic, yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's not a nice thing, but it would be interesting. Okay, so those are the mysteries going on right now, I think. Let's get into some more interesting stuff that happened. It's the first thing I want to mention is right here on page 131, where there's a quote, like, it's a lot of politics in here, trying to negotiate with other countries to work together, and Darlina's trying to do that. And there's an interesting quote here. So he's talking about someone from a different place, and he's saying, it feels like we're having two different conversations. Wasn't only an Azisha tribute, in Darlina's estimation it was the way of politicians worldwide. Half answer after half answer mouthed promises with no bite to them, laughing eyes that mocked him even while they pretended to be perfectly sincere. Here he was again, trying to unite people who didn't want to listen to him. And then, next page, somewhere in the middle, right here, talking to politicians was more exhausting than a 100-mile march in full armor. Like, that really sums up politics, doesn't it? Worldwide politics in dire needs, like when wars are a possibility and no one is able to just friggin' talk to each other and give each other information and maybe try to work with each other. That's just crazy. Like, I really loved how this reflects the real world. I wanted to share these quotes with you. Then next up, I noticed that the title of the book, Oathbringer, is so far really fitting with the content. Like, the snippets from the beginning are from this book called Oathbringer. One of the main characters has the shard blade named Oathbringer, but oaths also, like, play a really huge role in this book so far, like only on the 200 pages I've read so far. The wedding happened, so you take oaths there. Then there was a scene of something similar to coronation oaths, like becoming a king, you take oaths. Oaths, this is a really freaking hard word for me to say even. They are essential when you are talking about the magic system in this world, so I don't want to talk about it because it might be spoilers, but yeah, these are important for the magic system for sure, and also in politics, what I just mentioned. Then it can also be something negative, maybe talking about the curse of Darlina, who doesn't remember anything about his wife. And then also just talking about loyalty between characters, or if you're maybe a soldier, you also have this soldier's oath. Or if you're talking about beliefs and religion, which is also mentioned in this book on the first 100 pages already, so... Or maybe even Shallan, who promises something to a different character to never do something. You know, that's more than just, oh yeah, I promise I'll be back in 20 minutes. It's more than, yeah, I promise that this will work out, we will work on it, and it's more than oath. I don't know. So a lot of different things that really have to do with that. And also with the word bringer playing into it, Oathbringer, trying to make the place a better world. You know, Kaladin and Darlina are really working on that. So, really like the title. On a more silly note, Pattern is one of the Spren, like these magical fairy-like creatures. He is, if he even is a he, in my head he is so funny and cute. I love Pattern. So yeah, just random side note, just something that I noticed and really loved. Like, where you have a lot of depressing things happening in here, but there's always something to lift up the mood, something maybe even funny. So pattern really helps with that. And one more thing that just happened around where I was reading, like this chapter right before I ended, to update you, was about, how do I say it without spoiling? It's about Vale, the character Vale, and they are doing something to themselves in a magical way that really reminded me of the short story, which was also written by Brandon Sanderson, called The Emperor's Soul. It's included in the Arcanum Unbounded, so I haven't read it in this vlog, but maybe just a few weeks before that. So in that we have a character who is able to create forgeries, magical forgeries, that can change something about your person, what you have a knowledge of or what you're physically able to do. And in this story, Vale is also doing magical stuff, creating different personalities, so that is kind of similar to that, which is interesting. I don't think they connect in any way, but I loved this kind of magic. It is a form of art that is not just painting or music. It's different, but still about art and really creative and cool. So yeah, I think that's it for update number 1. I hope the other updates won't be as long. I hope this is just because it's all the setup and new stuff, and I probably won't be able to talk about a lot of other things because it's getting into spoilery territory pretty soon, I think. But yeah, these are my thoughts. I'll read again and update you. So this is officially day 12. I hope I have counted correctly of the vlog, and day 2 of me reading Brandon Sanderson's Oathbringer. Alright, I finished. It's the next day. Another 200-ish pages. So I'm at chapter 39 right now. You can see some really interesting fashion sketches throughout this book. They were also in book 2, which was really cool. But let's talk about it. So I finished part 1 and I'm currently in part 2, so I also read the interludes in between part 1 and part 2. I still have a lot of thoughts for part 1, so let's start with that. So now in part 2 we have new snippets, maybe from a different person, maybe not, I don't know. This time I do not have any idea who they are from and what their purpose is. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that we have something else now, because I love the snippets for part 1, but they never really said anything that was like very obvious and clear. So I still have no idea what the big thing is that they wanted to reveal. Maybe it was because at one point they talked about the murders they had committed in their life. Maybe the person that I think was the author of the first snippets killed the wife of Dalinar. But I don't know. It has to be someone that we know, because it's such a big mystery from book 1. It can't just be a freaking stranger who did it. I don't know. Speaking of Dalinar, we have more flashbacks from 30-ish years ago, and he was such a different person back then. It's kind of crazy. Like, he was kind of violent, didn't care about anything, and just very different from who he is now, so that was interesting to see. Kind of funny as well. Then Kaladin is dealing with a lot of his, you could say, racist characteristics, like he is connecting to the Parshmen which is a different race in this book, and he like can't really deal with that, like seeing individuals that he kind of connects to, kind of seems to like right now, but this race is something that he has fought in the past and should fight still, but now that he sympathizes with them, he's like doubting himself, like, can I fight them? Is this the right thing to do? So yeah, it's an important realization for sure. It comes a little late. Like, why haven't they thought about that before? But it's okay. Whatever. I like that it is talked about in the book now. And what else do I have to talk about? There is a lot about Darlana in this book, I think. I don't know. I didn't count the chapters that were from Darlana and compared them to all the other chapters, but it feels like we have a lot of POVs from his perspective. Wait, what POVs? Whatever, you know what I mean. And book 1, Kaladin, was my number 1 most interesting character to follow, most interesting plot points that happened from his perspective. Then book 2, Shallan took over, I think. And then now in book 3, I suppose Darlana is like the star of the book, but I never really loved his perspective or his character. I mean, it is interesting. I've pulled up some quotes earlier from his perspective and from his own words or thoughts. But I don't know, I like the other two much more. Again, in this one, I think Shallan is the star. Like, all the exciting stuff really happens from her perspective so far. But maybe that changes. I mean, I haven't even finished half of the book. I'm at 1/3 now. It would have just been interesting to have all the 3 characters really featured in one book individually, because I'm pretty sure now that book 4 has a lot of new minor characters, and yeah, would have been interesting to have book 1 Kaladin, book 2 Shallan, and then book 3 Dalinar, and then book 4 we have new stuff. But yeah, that's just my thoughts, my unfiltered thoughts. So, speaking of Shallan, interesting stuff that is happening. She is exploring this tower. Wait, let me see if I can find it, because she is doing sketches. Like, this is from her tower explorations. These sketches look super different from her past sketches that were, for example, in book 2. Okay, here we go. This is the tower that she is exploring. Different perspectives of it. And to see how big it is, there in the corner you have a chasm fiend. These are quite big monsters in this world. So it's crazy big. And it's really weird. There's a lot of hallways and empty rooms and creepy creatures, and just it's all dark. No windows in there. Really cool. Weird, but really cool. Shallan can also do a lot of interesting 3D-like illusions now. Like, when she's telling a story, she can project characters and objects to make it like a theater, you know, like a play, like you're watching it, like a movie. So that's cool. She also can use it other times, so yeah, that's really nice to see. In general, all of the 3 characters, they are experiencing that their power is expanding. They can do different things that they couldn't have done before, so it's really nice. And then the end of part 1 is kind of shocking to the characters, not shocking to the reader at all, because we already know about one character that returns, and then the character finally does so to the main characters in the book at the end of part 1, so that was interesting. Their reactions weren't really mentioned, only from one POV, and then I don't know. The character who returned didn't even acknowledge the others. It was weird in a way. But yeah, I'm glad that they have returned and are part of the story again. So let's talk briefly about the interludes. We have 3 different perspectives, and the interludes always like feature just perspectives who don't really turn up anywhere in the other parts of the book. They're just to see how people all over the world react to what is currently going on in the plot. So in this one we have a lighthouse keeper who is reacting to the catastrophic storms that are happening in the world, and it was quite funny because he was like, oh yeah, I'm glad these storms exist. That was an interesting perspective. I say interesting a lot, I'm sorry. And then the second one was, again, quite funny because it was about a book nerd who just wants to read the romance books that they have, but they are supposed to translate something very important. So again, nice contrast, nothing too meaningful, but it was nice to have perspectives from just normal human beings all around the world who are also affected by what is going on. And then the last one was from a perspective who is someone who knows Asianai, and they find out something very shocking about Asianai, which was crazy to read. I didn't expect that to happen, but yeah, so the last perspective was kind of meaningful, you could say. I mean, Asianai was never this big character that you read a lot from. I don't even know if they were in the parts or if they just repeatedly showed up in interludes in book 2. I don't remember, but yeah, something shocking happens, which I didn't expect. And I'm not even sure if it's the end of these perspectives now. I don't even know if it's true what you've read, if that is a final thing, like something that cannot change. I don't know how to say it without spoiling, but yeah, maybe there will be something about it in the future. I don't know. I still have some interludes before I will finish the book, and then we are in part 2 finally. I don't have to say a lot about it. I mean, you've seen the tower pick that I showed you, you've seen the cool fashion stuff, and I've talked about the new snippets. I just want to mention that in the chapter before this one, 38, there is something from Darlina's perspective that connects to the very beginning of the whole series. Like the very first thing that you read when you pick up Stormlight Archive is the perspective of characters that will show up as a POV later on. It's about these 9 or 10, however you want to see it, characters who talk after this big battle. And now in chapter 38 you find out more about this moment, so that was a nice connection there. And yeah, it really seems like it's starting to all not grow together, but everything is starting to connect, and people are all realizing like what has happened in the past, and they're all connecting with each other and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just nice to see finally in book 3 to find out more about the beginning of the series. Amazing. So yeah, that's everything for now. I will try to read till page 600 or something for more updates, maybe even more, who knows. And I'm like halfway through. Will you focus? Thank you. And let's find a page that definitely doesn't have any spoilers on it. Okay, so I'm in part 3, I believe, still. I mean, yeah. I mean, what still? I barely started it. And I have a lot of thoughts, so let's get through those again. I always take my notes, so I won't forget what to talk about. So again, we have new snippets. I still don't know what the snippets from part 2 are meant to tell me. It just talks about, I think, the 10 heralds, and maybe Hoyt, who knows. They just say that not everyone should be in one place and not interfere, but I don't know who. And they also mention interesting tests on water that someone has to pass. I don't know if this has happened, if this is connected to one interlude chapter that happens later. I have no idea. So, yeah, it's a mystery. And then I think this is still part 2. I don't know. I didn't really structure my notes that much. There was a lot of Bridge 4 training, which was very wholesome. Like, they were just happy doing their training and finding out what they can do. And we have a lot of perspectives from the individual members from Bridge 4 to, just meet them as individuals, to distinguish them better and just to find out more about them. Because before that, I think it was just Kaladin, then Rock, and maybe 1 or 2 other individuals that you can really distinguish and know who they are. But now you start to really understand each of these members. Also, if you've read Edge Dancer, as Brandon Sanderson suggests, I think in the preface, then the girl from Edge Dancer, the main character, finally shows up and plays a huge role also in part 3 now. So that's cool to see. We don't read from her perspective, but she is in there talking to some of the main characters, eating all this food as you would expect from her. And yeah, in general, a lot of Dalinar's perspective, so maybe book 3 really is his book. But again, I don't enjoy his perspective that much, so it doesn't feel like it's his book, but I think it's meant to be. At the end of part 2 and now in part 3, it starts to get more interesting, but again, I really like if we change to Shallan's perspective. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff happening with Odium, and also with the interludes again between part 2 and part 3. There is one about a well-guarded island with all these gems on it, and there's also a weird castle that isn't really explained, very mysterious, and also a person that is described. I don't want to describe what they look like in case it is kind of spoiler, but yeah, this whole island and what is on it is like meant to be secret, so it's very mysterious, very interesting. And there was a crazy death at the end of that interlude. Like, ooh, I wouldn't wish anyone that death. Another interlude was also about Taravangian, who was also in book 2, also as an interlude, I think. He's this mad character who always wakes up and has a different IQ every day. Like, he can be quite dumb or just average or very intelligent or like a genius. So it's interesting. Very crazy as well. But it was interesting to see the interlude because it really explains some stuff about his motives. And he is also mentioned in one of the main character perspectives in the parts, so he does play a bigger role. He's not just in the interludes, he is really part of the plot now. And yeah, now you just understand what his role is and why he is acting the way he is. Okay, coming back to part 3, we have new snippets. Again, I have no idea about what they are about. They sound really interesting. It's like notes that were stashed in different drawers, and they are just very short snippets. I have no idea, about different people talking about different stuff. they are all talking about a tower, so it could be the tower that Shallan was exploring, could be a tower that is mentioned when someone else is telling a story, which I'll come back to in a moment, or it could be something else, I have no idea. Could be from the island castle that was in the interludes, I have no idea. Could be about a place that we haven't seen yet. Could be something that Renaran found because he found stuff behind walls. Maybe that's what it's about, I have no idea. Then we also have Elukar's wife. She lives in a different place. She's not on the Shattered Plains or in Ritharu or whatever it's called. So we get there for now in part 3 and explore her city, I guess. It's a weird place where she lives. It's all crazy and people are acting weird. So yeah, no idea what that's about. It's also a new mystery unlocked that hasn't been answered. And I still have no idea who all of these people are. It's just a bunch of mysteries. And I really want some answers, but again, I've just read a little over half of the book, so I'm hoping to get some answers. Hopefully not too many more questions, but I do like it. It makes the book so complex and interesting, in my opinion. And yeah, I'm so excited to see the adaptation in the future, not just because it's interesting to see the world come to life, and the characters obviously, but also to just see more hype around the series. I mean, it is hyped. A lot of people are reading it, but I just want it to be even bigger than that. And also to have the pronunciation of the places and the characters. That would also be very helpful. It's very similar to Harry Potter. When it came out, no one knew how to pronounce Hermione's name. That was funny. And then with the adaptation, you finally found out, oh shit, it was not Hermione or something like that. So yeah, that's funny. And one last thing, in the very last chapter that I read, there was Hoyd again, and he was telling an interesting story where there was also a tower and also two people who switch lives, like they're impersonating each other. I don't yet know why he's talking about that story, but it could be important, so I'm mentioning it here for you and also for me if I look back into the video to remind myself, oh, there was that scene. So yeah, maybe it reveals something about other characters who are not who they are. I have no idea, really. I'm just guessing here. So that's everything I wanted to update you. The next update will be around 800. Hopefully a little bit more. Because I think we're getting into spoilery territory. I mean, I have skipped a lot of things that I didn't mention because I think they are spoilers. And even the things that I do mention, like, I have no idea how important they are. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you. Like, there's a lot of mysterious stuff happening. Feels like reading a whole series in just in one single book, which is just, it's crazy. I'm quite overwhelmed with all the mysteries, so yeah, I'm definitely taking notes on all the mysterious stuff that is happening. I think we're at like 6 different mysteries going on at the same time right now. Like, what the fuck? And then there's also war and storms happening, which is like the big plot, and also the bad people, these godlike creatures, and the race that changed to the red eyes things. Yeah, so a lot of dangerous stuff happening, but then there's also a lot of these mysteries in the background going on. It's so cool. If you haven't read the series, you really should. It's written in such a simple prose, but it's so complex at the same time. It's just amazing. Almost done. So it's the next day, and it's pretty late, so I'm already on page 900 and something. Here we have all the different types of wine, which is very useful information because they often drink wine, and now you can know if they drink an orange wine, what it would taste like, and if it's like a weak wine or very intoxicating. So that was a very cool page, so I'll just stay on this one while I talk, and I have a lot of updates. I finished part 3, finished the interludes, and I'm now in part 4. So a lot to catch you up on. In general, the book hasn't been that focused on fighting, but then at the end of part 3 it got very intense. There was fighting and action happening. Before that it was quite slow paced, but now every chapter something is happening and it's really exciting. And then in part 4 it's very similar. Also with Dalinar there's some exciting stuff happening now, and the emotional scenes are with Dalinar. Mostly in his flashback scenes, actually. Like this one right here. 94. Very emotional, very heartbreaking. Whew! Wasn't easy to read. Even though it's quite short, but it's just 2 pages. He's also just doing so many rash decisions, killing whole cities just because he thought that they betrayed him, but they didn't, and then he kills them all, and you read how they react when they friggin' die, all the screams and stuff. There was a lot. We also finally find out how his wife died. I won't go into that. And then with Shallan's perspective, she is like spiraling into some kind of depression or something in part 3. In part 4 it has changed a little. I think she's on the path of recovering from her mental health issues, but in part 3 she was down there, like depressed as fuck. Wasn't talking to the people that she's close to about all her insecurities or all her secrets, and like not accepting herself, thinking that she's not good enough for anything that would be good for her, hiding behind like fake personas, trying to be someone she isn't, and all that kind of stuff. And then in part 3, once you see what this cult is partying about, like there's crazy stuff happening, and then afterwards like chaos ensues. It's crazy. It was so cool, but yeah, you really have to pay attention because there's always stuff happening in these books, in this series. Then some things that I like that have been addressed are, for example, one character tries to do something about people who are starving, but then the wrong people benefit from it and it's worse than before. That was interesting to see because, again, this is something that reflects reality in some aspects, so I always like to see that as well, even though it's a fantasy world. You know, just seeing like how life can suck. And then there is a really interesting conversation between Shallan and Wit. I love their interactions. Always love when they get together, which hasn't happened that much, but in this book it happened, I think, twice now. So let's look at those. I'm not going into the whole conversation, just 2 aspects that were quite interesting to me. So on this page, this is still about what I just talked about. So the other character says, "You tried to help the people of the market. You mostly failed. This is life. The longer you live, the more you fail. Failure is the mark of a life well lived. In turn, the only way to live without failure is to be of no use to anyone." Just amazing quotes. Like, this is very philosophical, but yeah, the whole conversation is like they're having discussions and philosophical talks about all kinds of things, including art, choices you take in life as this one, but also about culture and just seeing things from different perspectives, understanding that people interpret situations differently. Very, very interesting, and this is very healing for the other character. Pretty much all the main characters deal with some kind of mental issue. So these types of conversations really help them to understand that no one's perfect and life won't be perfect even though you try. You just have to keep trying. Okay, let's move on. On page 791, they also talk about like stories, and they were in the middle of a story about a girl, blah blah blah. But then one character just says, we could just skip the boring part. Skip part of the story. I love that. We can't skip part of a story. You have to hear every detail, the beginning, the middle, and then the end. You can't skip. Yeah. I mean, knowing what's going on with some readers and discussions about readers online, this was an interesting quote. That's all I'm going to say about that. What they're actually talking about is this story that Shallan has already told to someone, and then they are like analyzing it, you could say. And the story is about this girl who lives in this place surrounded by walls, but she wants to see what is behind the walls, so she climbs them, and they discuss like what the wall is there for and why does she decide to do that and all that kind of stuff. We won't go into that, but in general, this whole thing really reminded me of the philosophical text or whatever, or talk that is by Plato about the cave. I don't know, I think it's an allegory. I had some philosophy back when I studied at university. I had to do that even though I didn't study philosophy. I had to do some seminars in it for my degree. And there I stumbled upon exactly that, the cave allegory by Plato. So this is quite similar. It's like a story that takes inspiration by it, but does its own spin. Instead of the cave, we have the wall here, but there's also the stuff about darkness and finding the light. And the whole story is also reflecting like the bigger plot of the Stormlight Archive, I think. Fits very, very perfectly with all the illusions going on and the storms and the different realms. In part 4, these are going to be really important. So I think that's why the story's in there as well. Like, in Plato's allegory, you also have like the physical realm and then the realm of, I don't know, thought, ideas. And in Stormlight Archive, you have those two. There's a physical realm, which is basically most of the story so far, but then you also have I don't know, what was it? I think there's a realm where like the gods are, and then there's also the realm of thought, which is separated from the physical realm. But you can technically go there, like it's a different place. So an interesting parallel that I wouldn't have stumbled upon if I didn't like take the freaking seminar at university, which I didn't enjoy because I often hate philosophy, like one person just talking in abstract ways to just get this very practical meaning across. I usually don't like it, so because Brandon Sanderson isn't that abstract in his writing, I can understand it, see the parallels, and it's interesting, and it's not too long. Like, they talk about it for maybe 2-3 pages. It's not a whole book. And yeah, just it's very rewarding if you manage to get through this ancient text and discussed it years ago, only to find out that now you can understand books more and take more from them. It's cool. So yeah, I don't mind that I had to do that for this very moment. I don't even know if there's a parallel, but for me it's very obvious. Feels like it has to be. I think you can look at the cave allegory like that's just a little part. It's not the whole book that is talking about this cave allegory. You can look it up. It's probably free to look at, and yeah, just check out page 798. I don't know what kind of chapter that is. Should be 81 if you want to get into and see if there's any parallels for you. So again, this really helps Shallan with her depression, because that's also something. Are you the person who is hiding in this walled up space or in the cave, which is dark? There's nothing going on, everything is the same, and people aren't doing anything, aren't seeing anything, aren't realizing anything? Or are you the person who breaks out of it and reaches this higher realm? Yeah, that's just interesting. That's mostly everything I wanted to talk about for this part. And yeah, the action I can't really talk about, but there's demon-like monsters that I can say, I think. Maybe they are connected to one of the stories that Wit was talking about. There was the story with someone impersonating someone else. I don't know. Could be, could not be. Not sure. Still don't know who they are. I have to look that up if it's not mentioned in the last 300 pages. And then there's at the end of part 3, like the very, very end, there's a battle at a palace that, escalates. Let's call it that. Some important stuff happening there, and also shocking. I didn't expect it to go down that way and so quickly. Just shocking. Can't really say anything else. And then they try to get away from the battle and all the chaos using the portal to get to wherever they usually are. Like if you've read book 2, the Shattered Plains, they try to go there again, but something goes wrong and now they are in a different place that they haven't been before and have to survive there. That's the first part of part 4, then trying to navigate this new place, trying to survive, trying to again get out of there. Alright, that's all I can say about part 3 without spoiling. Let's get into part 4. The interludes. We have more interludes. 3 again. And again, it's the one character who knew Aishonai, who's doing her own weird stuff. Like, she's working with the bad guys, but she's also hiding something from them and questioning what they're doing, but she's still with them. Very interesting decisions going on there. Then we have someone who has to choose between 3 different deaths. Like, just a random person. We don't know them, and we don't know what they did, but they have the choice. And they choose something, and that's the end of that. That was weird, but interesting. If you read into part 4, you will know maybe a connection there. I'm still not sure if there is the connection that I'm thinking there is, but I think so, yeah. Because in part 4 they are in this different place, and I think the interlude was from this place. And then the third perspective was from someone called Mem, and they are washing the clothes of Meraise, who is a character that Shannon has interacted with before, like from this underground group, assassins, basically. And yeah, this woman is finding out that Meraise is doing some interesting stuff. He's found out some interesting things. I can't really talk about it. But it was an interesting perspective. We've never read from the perspective of Maraise, and now we have like this new character who is also around Maraise, but again, we haven't seen his thoughts, his direct perspective, if that's even a term. So again, mysterious stuff going on, new questions that we have. Some things have been answered by now, so it's okay to have one more mystery after having solved 2 once. And then part 4, where does it start? Okay, let's get back to the wine page. I love the page. I don't know which one I would drink. Definitely not this one. And this one is also very strong, but it sounds very delicious. Okay, never mind. That's I didn't even want to talk about that. In part 4, which is the penultimate part of this whole book. So yeah, I'm almost done. And I also have just today and tomorrow, and then July is over, so it fits perfectly. I'm right on track. So in this one we have a lot of perspectives, so that's where I wanted to go, and then I saw the wine page and was distracted. In front of every part or interlude you see the perspectives you're reading from. Sometimes there's going to be one chapter by someone else that is not mentioned in here, but these are like the focus of the part, or the interlude, whatever. And it's usually just 3, maybe 4 names, but now we have 8. Like, what the fuck? The part is not longer than the others. It's even shorter than most of the parts. They're getting shorter. Part 4 is much shorter than part 3, and then part 5 is, I think, a little bit shorter even than this one. Never mind. This is a lot of interesting perspectives. The first row is very familiar. You often read from their perspective, but then Navani, I think, might be the first perspective in a part. Maybe we've seen her perspective in an interlude, I don't remember, but this is exciting. Then we have Seth, which is the first time in this whole book that we read from his perspective, but so far, I mean, I haven't read too much of the part, but I've read from his perspective like at least 2 times, and he's doing interesting stuff. So far, he's one of the most interesting perspectives. Like, they are all in this freaking different place and trying to survive. That's also cool, because the place is also very different. Very, very fantastical. And then Seth is doing a kind of training, which is always interesting, like doing little tasks similar to like tests, contests, something like that. And you learn a lot about, again, the magic system from his perspective, finding out how you can improve your abilities. Because so far we know that they have to say certain words, have to do certain things, and then in this one you really learn what these things are and how to do them. So that's really cool. Charavangan, interesting. I've only seen his perspective in interludes. Now he's part of like this whole part. He's getting into main character territory, you could say. And then Venli. She's also just been in the interludes in every single one so far, but now she's also in here. Also taking up more space, getting more important, and probably more interesting. Then we have a different picture right here, which is a map. Don't know why it's important, but there's one thing: the Emberdark channel and Emberdark. We know that there's a short story and a whole book which takes place in Emberdark. So interesting that Stormlight Archive already connects it to the other book. Just on this map, I think. I don't think it's mentioned anywhere in the text. And then we already know that Mistborn Era 3, right, is called Ghostbloods. And Ghostbloods are mentioned in this book as well. It's a group of people. So it's interesting. Everything is starting to connect. Mistborn, the standalones, and Stormlight Archive. It's just one thing. The Cosmere is Cosmering. What the fuck did I just say? Anything else? Like the snippets? Jesus Christ. Finding something with so many pages. Oh, great. In the flashbacks it's not mentioned. There we go. The snippets are from this fictional book, Mythica, that exists in this universe, and one of the characters is reading Mythica, so it's just nice to see this immersive reading, that we can read some snippets, some excerpts from it, while we know the other character is also having this book and reading it. That's all I wanted to say about the snippets. They're not a secret, not a mystery. We now know where it's from and why it exists. We can see the connection, which is nice. It's not that confusing, which is a good thing, because so many things in this book are confusing for me, or to me. So seeing something that makes sense and clicks is always nice. So yeah, it's just little things about these evil monsters they're trying to fight. And now a lighthouse is mentioned. People are going to a lighthouse, probably getting to this funny little character. So there was some relevance in it. If you just skip or skim over these interludes, you will probably still have fun with the book. What am I? Who am I kidding? But yeah, you're getting more out of it if you just read it carefully. I hope I've seen all the mysteries and interesting things. I hope it's just unraveling and plot twists happening. Maybe some people die, or I don't know, interesting reveals and so on that I can't really talk about because they're spoilers, so I will have to skip over these things. Again, I haven't mentioned everything that is happening. I don't even have mentioned a single thing about Adolin, I have no idea how he's pronounced, because he's in there a lot of the time. And yeah, I always try to just find stuff that interests me the most. I'm not talking about every single thing that is happening in here. So yeah, I'm rambling again. I'll get back to you when I actually finish the book. And I finished it. I'm done. And it's still the last day of July, so I managed to achieve what I wanted. So now that I'm done, I can tell you my final thoughts of the book. I don't have that many notes. Fortunately, as I said, most of the things in the last 300 pages were just spoilers and action and reveals and dramatic stuff, emotional stuff even. Let's get to, the map, why not? Let's go to the map. Okay, the first thing that I wrote down was, love triangle. I don't mind love triangles if they're done well. Like, some tropes I really don't like, some tropes I love. Love triangles are fine, but I didn't expect it in this fantasy book, and I didn't really love it. But I think the love triangle started in the last few hundred pages, and I think it also ended. So I'm fine with that. If a love triangle is dragged over many books, it's frustrating, but it's okay. In hindsight, it's okay that it existed. Then the next thing is, I love every single moment that Shallan and Adolin, I have no idea still, interact. I love their interactions. That's it. That's my whole note. Then the magic system kind of feels like leveling up. If you find out, oh, I have a new ability, I leveled up. It's kind of like that in my head. I don't know, but it makes it fun. It's why I love Dungeon Crawler Call as well. All the leveling up stuff really excites me. It's not similar in here, like not at all. You don't get any fun items or anything. It's just like, oh, a new ability. Oh, I can do something else now. Yay! So, yeah, why I don't have as many notes as with the previous parts is also because it was just about preparing for a big battle and then, well, fighting in said battle. So that was mostly what was going on. And then also like 100 pages were post-battle stuff that happens afterwards with a lot of characters. Like usually I don't like if battles are too long, but you had a lot of POVs during the battle and before it and afterwards. Sometimes the POV changed. Like on a single page you have 2 different POVs and then on the next page a new one starts. So it was very varied, very varied. I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, it kept my interest that way and was always exciting, always stuff that happened. You're always seeing a new viewpoint or we're in a new place. So yeah, I didn't mind it at all. In terms of reveals, I can only say that there are some reveals around, like, who has lived on this world at first, and some cosmic stuff as well, which was nice. There were some interesting POVs that we haven't seen before, like in the interlude there was a new character introduced called Risen, or Risen, I don't know, and her companion Kiri or Chiri. I don't know the pronunciation, but I loved these two. I hope to see more of them in book 4. I hope they will return, because they were really fun. And then in part 5 as well, you have a lot of interesting new POVs. I think even Renarin has POVs now, because I don't think he has any written perspectives prior to part 5 in here. But I'm not sure. Could be wrong. Yeah. In the end, I mean, I think it is the Dalinar book, the official Dalinar book. He is in it a lot, and the epic and important things happen around him, and also the emotional things, the flashbacks, all that kind of stuff. I'm still not the hugest fan of him, but I like him more now, and every time in these last 300-ish pages, I got even goosebumps when something really epic happened around him. That was crazy. Even though I don't really love him, I still get goosebumps. Goosebumps in general while reading are very, very rare. So, yeah, that was an interesting thing that I discovered. Then the whole book has 122 regular chapters. The interludes have their own chapter system, and then there's also an epilogue, but 122 chapters in general. And then there's one chapter, 120, that is 45 pages long. You can do the math. For 1230-ish pages with 122 chapters, 45 pages is quite long. And most of the chapter was just fighting and your regular combat dialogue when you see the enemy and talk to him for a second before attacking him, because why not? So that chapter was kind of boring. That's one negative thing that I have encountered in this book, which is why I won't give it 5 stars. It's just 4.75, which is like basically the same, but yeah. There are some minor issues with it, I think, but it's still a really brilliant book. And yeah, one thing was that just some chapters were very long, with a lot of fighting that you can kind of skip. Sometimes something interesting happens, so you can't really, but yeah, just a little too much fighting, especially because the chapter before that was really epic and felt like the book is about to end, but then you have 100 pages to go and you're like, wait, why was that the epic scene and now nothing really happens? That was something I had to adjust to. But it's fine, yeah. After the chapter, it was, again, just a great ride. And then at the very end, there are some interesting reveals, like there is a new ruler who's gotten crowned. That was surprising. And it was interesting that the book starts with a wedding, and then it also ends with a wedding. So yeah, a nice golden thread that is put in here. And yeah, we also find out a lot about the mysteries that I mentioned in the beginning. One of them was about these snippets from part 1. We found out at the end who the author of Oathbringer is. Maybe I should read through all the snippets now, but it's so much work finding them, going through all the pages to find the beginning of chapters. Just to see the context, maybe understand it more. And yeah, I had to Google who these people are. They are some of the heralds. So yeah, interesting choice to put them on here without any description, because I would have never guessed who these people are. Maybe I could have guessed, oh yeah, they might be some of the heralds, but who specifically? No way. No way. So yeah, here's my update. Loved it. And I'm excited for some more Brandon Sanderson books, but yeah, this will have to wait. I will have to take a break. I've read too many books by Brandon Sanderson back to back now, so now I will switch to some light reading for a change, some shorter books, and also some books where I don't have to think too much. Maybe I'll do a vlog about those as well, I don't know. Next up I will pick up Vicious for the first time because the 3rd book is coming out, and then after that I will read a lot, like 5 Fairy Loot books, because again, sequels have been announced. I want to know if I need them, so I'll read those books as well. So yeah, if I have the time and the motivation, I will do a vlog with the Fairy Loot books, but other than that, I don't know what the next vlog will be. Maybe it's going to be the next Brandon Sanderson vlog. Could be, but I don't know when. Probably this year. Like, I want to have a little break, but I don't want to do a break that is longer than a few months. Like, sometime this year I will for sure do the vlog. But yeah, there's that. Let's shelve this beast and end the vlog. And there we go. That's my collection so far. Let's hope it gets more complete in the next one. So thank you for watching, and I'll hope to see you in whatever I will upload next. Bye.